Ready to go? I'd like to call this first general meeting of the 2022-23 fiscal year to order. And if you would, stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Always like to hear the pledge. We do have a quorum, and we're going to take just a second and ask the other directors to introduce themselves and just give a short and sweet description of what they're doing. Roberta, would you like to start?
Sure. I'm Roberta Davidson. This is my third year on the board. Also, I'm chair of the Properties Committee again, and I've lived in Sun City West for over 15 years.
Good morning. I'm Harry Stanabine. I'm second year on the board, chair of the golf committee, and bought our first house in Sun City West in 2005, was a snowbird, and now pretty much full-time here.
Good morning, Lisa Vines. This is my second year on the board. I am chairing the Sports Pavilion Committee again, and this is my 7th year in Sun City West.
Good morning. I'm Jack Leary. This is my first year on the board. I've lived in Sun City West for 5 years. I chair the Chartered Clubs Committee, and I'm also the board secretary.
Good morning. My name is Ann Brown. This is my third year on the board. The first 2 years I served as treasurer of the board and chair of the Budget and Finance Committee. This year I am the vice president, and I also serve on the Budget and Finance Committee. I've been a resident of Sun City West for almost 12 years. Thank you.
Okay. Sharon Heddick. I've been on the board for my third year. I've been in the community for over 19 years, and I'm working actively with the state legislature on getting transportation out to the West Valley. Nothing to do with here.
Good morning. I'm Kay Williams. I'm the new kid on the block and the old kid on the block. I was a director on the governing board from 2013 to 2016, where I chaired the Properties Committee for 3 years. I am honored to be asked to come back and serve a one-year term now, and I'm a member of the Properties Committee again, and have lived here 18 years. I was 12 when we moved here.
Dick, would you like to introduce yourself? Dick Rhodes is on the telephone.
Good morning. My name is Dick Rhodes. This is my first year on the board. I am the treasurer and also chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee. I have lived in Sun City West full-time since September of 2012, and we were seasonal for a year and a half before that. And I am very happy to be on the board and excited about the future for us.
Thank you, Dick. My name is Tim Hurley. I'm the president of the board. This is actually, please no groans, this is my 6th year on the board. Was appointed last year and was elected to a 3-year term this last season, so I'm going to be here for a while. So, Mr. General Manager, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Bill Schwind, and I am just north of 3.5 years on this association's team and serving as the general manager. Thank you.
And over to my right is Karen Ripken. She's the executive assistant for the governing board, and Bonnie Ellis, who is our parliamentarian, who is there to keep us in line. Thank you. All right, moving on. Approval of the minutes. March 1st, 2022, governing board special meeting minutes are being amended. And basically the amendment is this. After clarification of the redlining process, the governing board unanimously voted to approve the deletion of the independent contractor definition and approve in-gross revisions to the contract segment of the chartered clubs, RR&Ps, and that's as redlined. And what is being amended is this action by the governing board resulted in the final adoption of the full RRNPs as redlined. Do I have consensus to approve that? Okay, thank you. Also, we have the minutes from the June 23rd annual member meeting and regular governing board meeting minutes. We have any changes to that? No, they will stand as filed then. All right. We have 5 standing committees and we have 2 special committees. And at the end of each month, the committee chairman puts together a report, and those are included on the agenda in board docs. You can look them up and read them yourself. And we usually use a consent agreement to approve all of these en masse. And Jack, do you have a motion for us?
I do. I move to approve the consent agenda and accept the September end-of-month reports as filed for information.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Dick. Okay, they will be as filed. Okay, reports, we have no new filings this year, so we're going to move right on to new business. And that is policy FI-15, subsection 5.2, redlined. And that is Mr. Rhodes. You have a motion for us?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. Basically, what we wanted to do was to synchronize the policy FI-15 with our bylaws. And the motion is in section 5.2, the governing board shall vote on the proposed financial plan prior to the last day of month. What we did is we deleted at the regular board meetings in May. So the red line would be at the regular board meetings in May. And the new would read, the governing board shall vote on the proposed financial plan prior to the last day of May. And that puts in, it synchronizes the bylaws with FI-15.
Okay, would you like me to read the motion, Dick? Do you have it in front of you?
Please. Yes, please.
Sure. The motion is, I move that the governing board approve the revision to FI-15 subsection 5.2, preparation of the annual financial plan as redlined.
Second.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, okay, that will pass. All right, moving right along to new business. 5.02, the CO3. CO3, our policy CO3 has to do with our standing committees and what the charter for these standing committees are. And each month at the committee meetings, the staff will report out on various information that's important to the committee to do their job. And at our last workshop, I asked the directors to think about any information that needs to come from the committee that doesn't normally get reported. And this would be not necessarily what the committee wants to hear, but what we want, what the board wants the committee to report to us. And we have gotten some feedback, and I'll just try to summarize it, okay? And then we'll have a discussion. And I'm mostly interested in the time period that we want these reported in, whether it's monthly, quarterly, half-yearly, whatever. So here we go. For chartered clubs, Jack was kind enough to give me a rather lengthy email on all the information that Jack would want from the club track datas. And I think he can negotiate that with Casey, and they can decide how they want to report that out to the committee itself. As far as the board is concerned, I got several requests that there be a report back to the board on how the clubs are using their spaces. And this would be in cooperation with the properties committee to basically say who's using what, where, how much are they using, and is it appropriate to the size of the room that they're in. So that was first thing. The other thing was we had...
May I ask a question in regard to that?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, is that information going to be provided to us by?
That's what Jack needs to negotiate with Casey on how she is going to report out the club track data to him. So yes,
Okay, because we were told that that information is confidential and we aren't allowed to have it.
there is certain parts of that are confidential that have to do with individual owner members and their confidential information. So yeah, that's going to have to be discussed on how that information gets passed on generically without that personal information attached.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, and one of the other things that some of the board members wanted was to, throughout the year, we get requests from chartered clubs on repairs, replacements, fixes, additions, that sort of thing. And we just want to have some sort of report to the board on what the current wants and needs coming out of the chartered clubs is. Just a kind of a broad, what we can expect, that sort of thing. So, any other comments on chartered clubs? And Jack, I'll provide this to you after we're done. Okay, BNF. There was a lot of comment that came back that had to do with the investment portfolio. And I know that the BNF committee is going to get a report from CapTrust, our investor representatives. And particularly in the economic environment that we're in now, I think that the board would like to have some sort of timely feedback on the investment, specifically on the investment. And again, whether we do that quarterly or half yearly, that's up for discussion. Okay. One of the other things is looking at both sides of the ledger. We focus a lot on revenue, but there are a lot of things happening with the general manager and his staff to actually save expenses, cut expenses, I should say, and we'd like to have a understanding on what those are too, because a lot of those go unnoticed by the board, and I think controlling expenses is as important as raising revenue. So that's another area. Okay, any other questions, comments on BNF? Ann?
I think I submitted one, or maybe I just thought about it and didn't tell you, but I think it would be nice if we could have CapTrust do education specifically for the board, which they have offered to do.
You did put that in, and I was going to assume that would be part of the report back that we would get.
Oh, okay.
On a quarterly
Yeah,
or.
but they had offered to just do an education session, maybe at the end of one of our workshops or board meetings.
Okay. Mr. Finelli, can you arrange that for us? Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments on BNF? Okay. Golf. We got, Harry presented this as a golf meeting, and I really think that golf gets a pretty good report out on whatever happens to the golf courses and that sort of thing. There are some other areas that people would like to see on, and that is Golf Ops has started putting out cards so that outside players can put down their name and contact information so that we can send them invitations to special events or that sort of thing. So I think we would like to start getting reports on how that's operating, how many reports we get back from that, and also what Golf Ops is doing to attract new or lapsed golfers. Last year was with the increase of 20,000 rounds. It had a huge impact to our revenue stream. So getting our players out on the golf courses is important as a good revenue stream, and so we would like to make sure that Golf Ops is doing everything he can to attract that type of person. And also, our golf courses are used a lot in the morning, and particularly in the summertime, the afternoon, not as much. And it would be interesting to see if there are any actions that Golf Ops could take to try to generate off-peak usage from the golf courses. Okay? And there was one other thing that I made a note to myself this morning, and I don't see Mr. Patty, but there's an area of under the environmental services that doesn't really get covered by any committee, and that is all the rest of the turf that's in our complexes. And it would be interesting, because golf is more turf related, it would be interesting to get some report back on any issues that we might be having with other turf-related type of things. I know that there's some question right now about the softball field, and there's some question about lawn bowling, and there's really no place to get reports on that. So I would like to recommend that we include that in the golf report outs. Okay? Any other comments on golf? Karen, Sharon?
I just had a question in regards to the outreach. Do we currently have an outreach to Ottawa University and to the students that are in the afternoon from the golf that's played at the high schools to have them use it in the summer? I'm
We-
just
we
curious,
do- we
not
do.
summer, but in the afternoon.
We do. We actually have a policy, golf policy that specifically addresses high school and college teams.
Great.
Hmm? Okay, sports pavilion. Lizard Acres is a popular topic at the sports pavilion committee meetings. And one of the things that everybody is interested in that needs to be addressed on a maybe a little fuller basis is exactly what the revenue expense situation is at Lizard Acres. A lot of people over there, a lot of people there most of the time, and it'd be interesting to understand, for the board to understand exactly what the net result of all that activity is, okay? One of the other things that came out is there anything that the Sports Pavilion Committee can do to get better service out of MIMOs on bowling league nights? Several of my bowling friends are complaining about that. Okay. Okay, well, that's also for the general manager to put on his to-do list. Okay, I think that covers it. What I'll do at the end, after the meeting, is summarize all this for the individual chairmans, and hopefully we can go. But I do want to ask, how often should these things be reported back? I'll get to you in 1 second. How often would you like to see these? Quarterly? Really? Quarterly? Hmm? It'd probably be at a workshop. Yeah, because that's more of a discussion rather than a formal vote on things, more informational gathering. All right, Sharon.
Regarding Lizard Acres, are we at the current time checking to see how many are attending from out of the area?
Lisa, can you address that?
I just want to know if we're keeping track of the number of people that are attending from out of the area. The 2 nights that I've been there were over, sometimes when there's people that were there, they weren't allowed to let enough people in. There was a wait to get in, and they were being turned away. And so I was just standing asking where they were from. And the people that I was staying with were from Grand and from Sun City. So again, are we checking as to who's there and how many of them are from out of the area?
To my knowledge, we're not checking to see where they're from, but I've tried to be there on most of the music nights, and we have yet to hit our capacity, so we've not turned anybody away, to my knowledge.
That was last year.
There was a seating issue, but we've been, very graciously had them bring in tables, the 6-footers with chairs, and that problem has been resolved.
It's my understanding, and the general manager can confirm or deny this, but that the Lizard Acres is a public open area. So we would have trouble limiting who comes into it. It's not like a club space where it's our space and clubs can define so. But that's something to keep in mind, that we don't want it to get so popular we got people coming in off the street.
Well, that's the other part about marketing. I mean, if you're going to market it, if you're going to market the area, then it's going to go out to outside people as well.
Lisa.
Thank you, Tim. One of the other things we have to remember also is that some of the musicians that Barry brings in to play, they have a big following, and so these people follow them, and they come from outside of Sun City West, and we welcome these people. So because it is a public area, it's open, we're not going to turn people away. And as long as people are patronizing the bar and everybody's having a good time, and exceeded our limit of our capacity limit, we're all good to go.
Okay, okay. Moving on, we have been discussing over the last several months, it goes back into last fiscal year, of a code of conduct. And this is something that I believe is important because it's a way for the board to tell our owner members how we're going to act in their best interest, okay? And we tried some things last year to see if people could agree on it. And it's been narrowed down to the code of conduct that's been passed out most recently. So I just want to have that discussion and see if there's any pros and cons to that as we sit now, because I would like to move that forward. Open for discussion. Roberta.
Has this been reviewed by our attorney?
I don't know that it needs to be.
Oh,
And let me tell you something. As a matter of fact, you know, the carpet in the offices has been replaced recently, so we had to clear everything out of the offices. They put the carpet down and cleared everything back. And in the meantime, Karen found a large poster size, basically code of conduct, that was written back in 2016 by me. It was my first year on the board, and it was important back then because we had issues then to just get everybody on the same page, to basically say we're going to act in the best interest of our people, and that we are going to behave ourselves when we're in meetings, that we're going to respect alternative views, we're going to act with professional behavior, and that we're going to understand the scope and limitation of our responsibilities. And so we have come up with the draft that has been circulated to everybody. So any questions? Okay, Ann?
Just one comment. I don't know if we need to have this in there, but I do think that if there's a time when any of us are involved with a club or an organization or anything, when there is a vote, I think we should address that to the board and if necessary, recuse ourselves. That's no matter whether it's a charter club or, you know, like we've had the Briarwood water contract, and I know that people said, I'm a member of Briarwood, but this won't affect my vote, you know, that type of thing.
Right.
I just think we need to be upfront about those things.
That's actually set in policy. We have a policy on confidentiality and
okay.
conflict of interest. And there's also
that's
state
true.
statutes that require that we do certain things if we have conflicts of interest. So, well, seeing no objections, I invite the other directors to sign this with me at the end of the meeting. And this will be displayed in a permanent place. Okay?
Oh, no, I'm seeing it's got down Maloney.
Martin, before
Oh,
this,
yeah, that's been changed.
Martin,
was
before
actually
this
the
discussion's
last
over, I do want to add
Where's
something.
the typo?
Thank you, Jack. Serving for the general interest of all members. Where it says also any information shared with the board in confidence shall remain confidential and not, should it say be shared outside of the board
And not shared outside the board?
and not shared? Oh, okay. That was my only question. Otherwise, I am good to go and happy to sign.
Great, so I have consensus from the
Tim-
board that we're gonna sign this? I'm
Tim,
sorry,
could
Dave,
I-
go ahead.
Tim, could I say something? In my absence, I have read that document that you have there, and I am in full support of that. Even though I won't be signing it today, you can consider this as my validation that I'll sign that upon my return.
Thank you, Dick. It will be waiting for you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, 5.04, Golf Committee Recommendation Discussion, Electric Cart Purchases. Golf Chairman Harry.
We've got two items that we brought forward, and at our last meeting, Pat brought up some facts and figures about changing to electric carts because we know it's a coming thing. And we had kind of an idea what the costs were and had a good discussion of it. And one thought on a golf cart was to buy one and just use the living bejesus out of it to see how it holds up, how many times you can use it. You know, you get one round out of it, and then you got to take it out of use for the rest of the day. Where a gas cart, you can get 2 or 3 rounds. And then the second item was then, how do we go about costs? There's a lot of costs to the carts, and then expanding club facilities, so they got places to plug in, having the electrical done. And so we kicked that around, and we thought, we're not gonna bring anything up for a vote, it's just gonna come up for a discussion here at the board about what we should do, you know, when should we do it, how much is it gonna cost, does it make sense to have this kind of a cost for the people of Sun City West? And with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Tim.
Thank you, Harry. I was at the meeting that Harry had where this discussion took place, and what I did tell him is that we are at the beginning of our budgeting process for next year, and there are several policies that need to be followed before we just go spend money on any particular capital item. And just for everyone's education, a capital item is anything that's over $5,000 that has more than a 5-year life term to it. FI1 is accounting for capital assets and construction projects. Let me even back up. This project, if it were to go forward, involves not just buying a cart, but it involves retrofitting our golf barns to be able to handle the additional electrical load that recharging the carts would put on it. We already know some of our cart barns do not have the necessary kilowatts coming in, or whatever they call it, to be able to support this. So it would require an engineer to come out, figure out exactly what it would take to upgrade it, figure out what the cost would be to upgrade it, and it might even go back to having a larger transformer somewhere else in the property. So it's a lot of things need to be done before here and there, and that's what puts it back into the budgetary process, because this now involves other committees. Properties Committee would have to look at this, they would have to approve it, they would have to understand what it is, and then finally it would have to go to the B&F Committee. And Mr. O'Hara was able to put together some cost benefits, but it didn't include the type of things that I'm talking about right now. So really what we need to do is we need to kind of step back and go through the budgetary process. Each committee by December 1st must put forward its capital budget projects for the year that would be considered in the upcoming budget. So the timing on this is fine. The only problem is we don't have enough information to fully understand what we would want to do, okay? We have gas carts at all of our facilities now. If we have a big tournament at one, we can bring carts from one area over to the other. Gasoline carts will run all day on a tank of gas, probably more than all day, 2 or 3 days. So there's a lot of other things to consider. The cost is really what we're interested in, what it's going to take to cost us. So we need to understand what the cost is to buy, maintain, and dispose of, if we have to, golf carts over the golf cart's lifetime, okay? So it's more complicated than just buying one and trying it out. And we have other policies that need to be considered. FIO2 is the capital expenditures budgeting, and the proposed comprehensive capital plan shall be submitted to the general manager for review by the Properties Committee, in this case, the Golf Committee, and the Budget and Finance Committee. It really doesn't affect pavilion and bowling and chartered clubs. Okay, so that needs to be done before that can be put into the proposed annual plan. Okay?
Question.
Roberta.
So who's going to be preparing the information?
Wait for it. So what I'm recommending is that this go back to Harry's committee, and that the golf committee form a subcommittee along with properties and along with B&F, that they they do what needs to be done to fully flesh out what this cost would be. Not only to do one facility, but to do them all. And I would anticipate over a course of years that this would get done. So there's a lot of things that need to be considered. It's, again, I say not just buying and maintaining and that sort of thing, but our would the electric carts live up to the demand that we put them? As Harry said, some of these carts are out 3 times a day. And I personally know people from Grand that have top-of-the-line golf carts that when we play at Pebblebrook, they'll ride over to Pebblebrook and jump on someone else's card just so that they are sure they have enough electricity to get back. Now, I know there's been a lot of advances done with lithium batteries and things like that, but still, if we're going to go into a project like this that could easily run into a couple $100,000, we need to be fully aware before we start it on what we're looking at and what the final analysis is going to be. Sharon.
One question in regards to this is that since the electric or the cart barns also need to be upgraded with electricity, it would be nice to have that piece put separated, so it's not just for what it would be for the electric golf carts that we're adding 10 a year or whatever, but it would also be what has to be done in general so that you don't pop the electricity every time Pat plugs something in. So that piece, we know what that amount is, would still or should be still budgeted for regardless of whether we do the electricity for the golf carts.
Yeah,
If we choose not to.
that's an important point because we do know that some of our golf shops are bordering on electrical
Hazards.
shortage. Pun intended, okay? Because we know that if they plug in too many things at once, it pops a breaker, and that's not good. So you're right. Besides looking at what it would take to handle the additional load of golf carts, it's at the same time it would be worthwhile to just understand what any additional needs of the shops would have.
And then the other point is, on the information that Pat had given us at the golf committee and in general, it would be a good idea to know what gas costs are versus what that electric cost would be. And that's not on any of the information right now, but I think that we need to know too what we're saving because there's our savings when you go to the electric golf cart over a period of time. So it would, and again, I don't know how much gas is gonna be, nobody does, but again, you have to figure out what it is currently and or if it goes up or down.
That would be part of the whole analysis.
Right.
What it takes to run a gas cart, what it takes to repair a gas cart, cost of gas carts, how long they last, that sort of thing, versus the same information for electrical carts. The total cost of ownership. Thank you, Jack. Ann.
I think we also need to look at cost-benefit analysis and return on investment and see when we're gonna hit that return.
Correct.
That's a very good point because basically this is an expense without a return to the owner members other than going green and the PR that would provide us. So another thing that needs to be determined is exactly how much carbon are we saving by doing this versus what we would have with a golf cart. And seeing some of the fires in the area that are pouring smoke into the atmosphere like they do, it's kind of hard to imagine this wouldn't be inconsequential. Okay, so do I have consensus to move this back to golf committee? And I've asked the general manager if he could make available the necessary folks from his side of the fence to handle some of the information gathering and analysis, that sort of thing. Okay, Harry, it's in your hands. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Could I ask you one question, Tim, before you move forward?
Sure, Dick, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'll be having, will each one of the committees that you mentioned have a member on that subcommittee, so we'll provide participation on the subcommittee from Budget and Finance?
They will, Dick, but it will still have to go back to your full committee for
Oh,
approval.
no, I understand. Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay.
There's a lot of moving parts to the assignment that Harry has.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, as part of this discussion, there was also some discussion about whether this change in infrastructure would qualify for any grants that may be offered out there. Our friends in Washington have made a whole bunch of money available, a whole bunch of your tax money available to make infrastructure changes. And we have gone to people like the Arizona Water Resources District and gotten grants from them to remove turf and that sort of thing. So there are grants out there that could be possible. We're also going to contact the USGA. The general manager and his staff are going to contact USGA, see if there's anything there, or AGA, or any of the other golf organizations that might have grants for this type of thing, so that once we understand what the cost is, we might not have to bear it all entirely ourselves. Okay? All right. Any questions on that? Okay. I am going to open it up to the audience. Normally we have questions at the end, but this is kind of a topic that we're going to require input in. So if anyone has any comment on that. Okay, thank you. All right. That concludes the business for today. I'm going to open it up for director comments. Let's start over here. Katie, do you have any comments?
No comment.
Sharon?
No comment.
Comment?
No comment.
No comment.
I have one question, Tim. This is a question to Dick and Jack. After reading The Independent, did Jack get a new last name, or do we have two guys that are brothers, or just what's going on?
There's a superhero out there called Jack Rhodes. That was
Not related to me, I might add.
Yeah.
Wow. Dick Deck,
Yeah. Yeah, great.
All right, Roberta, do you have any comments? Okay. General Manager?
I have no comment either.
Dick, do you have a comment?
I have no comment, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'll open it up for audience comments. If you have a comment, please come up, give us your name and rec number, sign-in sheet, and please talk into the microphone.
Hi, my name's Rhonda Potts. I am president currently of the Decorative Art Club, but I'm here to bring up a topic of conversation that's not as the president of a club, but as a resident here. I've lived here for 4 years now. I was able to attend 2 of the craft fairs before we had COVID and tax problems and that sort of thing. They were wonderful events, wonderful community building events for our community as a whole, and to draw lots of people from the surrounding communities, which I believe has a value to us as a community. Not everyone who moves here comes from Indiana like I did. They come from Surprise and Glendale and Peoria when they see what a great place this is to live and how many fun events there are to participate and ways to further their hobbies. I understand that a craft fair now, sponsored by the rec board, would have to look different. Couldn't be clubs, has to be individual vendors. There are people right now who are searching for places to share their crafts. They're going to church groups, community groups, and paying a table fee or whatever they have to do to participate. I think it would be a wonderful idea to explore if we as a community again could sponsor a similar event. My club members are not into mass producing for profit. They just simply love to paint, and they paint every day. And their houses are overrun, and their children are looking at them going, could you please do something with this? And the craft fairs gave them an opportunity to do that. I realize they can utilize the Pora Gallery, and that's a beautiful facility, but it's not a craft fair. It's a different animal altogether. So that's not necessarily provided an avenue for people to share what they do. So I realize it would be a big undertaking for the community as a whole, for the management of the community, but I just wanted to throw it out there as an idea that I think would be extremely welcomed by the residents who live here, and probably by the community as a whole, who are going, what happened to those great craft fairs they used to have over at Sun City West, where I bought all my Christmas gifts?
Okay. All right, well, thanks for your comments. That's not a board activity, but I will ask the general manager and his recreation manager to look in to see if there isn't something like that that could be done. I know there are other entities in the area that put on crafts fairs like that too, so.
And they're doing, I think, well, but we, Sun City West, are losing that. It could even be revenue. People are paying fees to go to these events as
Right.
vendors, and we're losing that community experience that we gathered by
Sure.
doing that. So,
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a rec number, please?
I'm sorry, 131839.
My name is Malkins, 133796. All the information I'm going to reveal here, I took right off the Sun City West website. This is called the CR14A. It's a charter club reciprocal agreement. Opening line. The term of this reciprocal agreement is valid from the initial date signed below through the end of a current year, meaning this must be signed every single year. So I went to the softball club rules. This is called supplemental section, team composed of Sun City players and Sun City West players. Section B, a waiver is required from the Recreation Board. This waiver shall continue on an ongoing basis or until the softball club members of Sun City West vote to discontinue this play. Section C, the membership meeting where this vote is to take, the membership meeting wherein the vote on joint play is taken shall not be held June, July, August. Obviously, snowbirds are away. They want everybody here. Such a meeting shall have a quorum in accordance with Article 4, Section C of the bylaws. In the event a quorum is not present, the vote shall be deferred till the next meeting. Specifically, if that meeting fails to draw a quorum, the waiver is automatically terminated without recourse. Now, I'm not putting Mr. Schwinn on the spot because he hasn't been here only 3.5 years. But that means the waiver has to be signed every single year by the general manager. If you do not put that to a vote, that automatically terminates that agreement. Now, Mr. Leary, you said you're head of the charter clubs? That's right. This was taken directly from the softball charter club. Section D, the governing board of the Recreation Committee may revoke this waiver whenever it deems necessary in the interest of the club. My question to you is, every year I have to get in my car, every week, 300 players have to do the same. 300 players have to get in their own personal vehicle, drive to Sun City to play. I will specifically ask you, Mr. Leary. And I went back to 2012 because I wanted to see what was going on. Do you know how many votes were taken in the last 10 years?
Questions need to be addressed to the chair, and I'll ask Mr. Leary to.
So who do I ask this question to?
To myself.
All right, Tim, do you know how many votes have been taken in the last 10 years?
I do not.
1. That's right. In 9 out of the last 10 years, there was no vote taken, which should have automatically terminated this agreement. Do you know for the last 10 years, every single player, 300 people, had to get in their vehicles, personal vehicles, drive to Sun City and play softball when there was no valid agreement? Why would you want that to happen?
I think the charter club, and Jack, you can confirm or deny this, understands what the issue is that you're discussing here, and that there will be some steps taken, hopefully soon, that will rectify this. Jack?
That's correct.
So nothing gets done?
It's really a matter of the club asking for the waiver, and then once they've asked for it, it's up to the board to approve it or deny it. So the club needs to have a meeting with a quorum, and they need to take a vote on whether they want to continue intermingling play. And if they do, and they ask for a waiver, it will come to the board to decide yes or no.
But that's supposed to be done every year, and 9 out of 10 years, no one's done it.
I can't tell you what happened in the past. I can only tell you what we're going to do going forward.
You want me to write my name down also?
Please. Yes, sir.
My name is Paul Burrier, 113848, and I'm here to say I was at a committee meeting on May 5th and brought up the idea of safety flags at the swimming pools for the people to do the backstroke. And Mr. Wilhelm said he listened to me and would take it to Mr. Boston. And, oh, I see both of them are here. And they're smiling. They know I'm going to say something good.
Well,
Okay.
sir, if you had been at the property committee this last week, you would have heard that they do have those flags, and they are just waiting to have them installed.
I know. We're waiting for an expert to install them.
Correct.
I did not attend the last meeting. I saw it online, but I wanted to come here publicly and address what a good job they did. They took the ball and run with it, and I'm not here to complain.
Thank you. Sorry I cut you off.
Hi, I'm Marley Kistler, 122102. I want to thank you all for the
I'm
hard
sorry,
work
ma'am, I
this
didn't
week.
catch your name.
Marley Kistler.
Okay.
122102. I just want to thank you for all the hard work you do. I have one question. Over at the R.H. Johnson pool area, our lounge chairs are in pretty bad shape, and I was wondering if we had an update on what the plan was for repair, replacement on these?
I would have to ask the general manager or Mr. Russ Boston. Mr. Boston, could you answer that, please, for the lady?
Right, because we just put new chairs in. They
No,
were
they're
refurbished.
There were only a few refurbished, and it was our understanding, Roberta, that they were refurbished with a fabric they were testing to see how it held up.
They recently just brought in an entire truckload. I think there was like 15 to 30 chairs that were swapped out. So I don't know, when's the last time you've been there?
Maybe 4 or 5 days ago.
We will check into that. We're continuing to go through these because they are starting to get stretched out. Ever since that pool was built, all that stuff was new. We weren't used to that type of material. So we're kind of getting a feel for how long it lasts. Some last longer than others. So we did try a little bit of different things to see if it would last longer. So I will get with Jack and I'll get back with you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? One more, okay.
Debbie Dorn, 137872. I just want to thank last year's governing board and this year's governing board for our rip and sew refacing of our cabinets. Our new room looks very nice. Thank you very much.
Carl, you hear that? Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, one more chance. Any more comments? All right, if there's no more comments, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 9:49. Thank you.